news team on local television. The combined resources of KCOY 12, Central Coast Local News, and KEYT News Channel 3. Your news starts now.
Breaking news tonight. A late news conference reveals the extent of that oil spill along the Gaviota coast.
Well, I think any oil spill is devastating to the environment, but it's not something that we can't recover from.
Tonight at 11, state beaches are closed, and we have team coverage of the evolving environmental crisis stretching 4 miles along that pristine coastline. Good evening, everybody. I'm CJ Ward.
And I'm Paula Lopez. This is a combined edition of News Channel 3 and KCOY 12 Central Coast News. We are starting with the very latest on the oil spill that has fouled several miles of our coastline.
First, we know the oil came from a pipeline owned by a company called Plains All-American Pipeline. Now, this happened near Refugio Beach, north of Highway 101. An early estimate of 21,000 gallons made its way into the ocean, and it didn't take long for that oil to start causing damage. Black shores are fouling Refugio and other beaches, and the work to deal with all of this is just beginning.
They were able to conduct skimming operations. They did deploy 1,500 feet of boom and 2 skimmers to retrieve approximately 20 barrels of oil. However, the boom has been brought back in because of the nighttime operations.
Now, people who love the rugged beach at Refugio expected to enjoy a beautiful holiday weekend there. Instead, about 100 campers were forced to evacuate the campground.
And Tracy Lair spent the afternoon and evening there. She joins us live tonight from Refugio. Tracy.
I'm just east of that campground, and we're told this 11-mile pipeline went under the 101, under the railroad tracks, and spilled into the ocean. It was firefighters who smelled it and reported it around noon, and the Environmental Defense Center says this is the Galapagos of North America, and they're very concerned about the nature of it all. Oil as black as night spilled from a 24-inch Plains All-American pipeline rupture on shore. Campers hoping to spend the afternoon surfing smelled trouble.
I was almost going in the water. Nobody even told me the beach was closed. I was going to put my wetsuit on, grab my board, and go paddle out, and my sister's boyfriend came back and said, "You're not going anywhere."
The image of an oily bird reminded many of the iconic bird photo from the 1969 Santa Barbara oil spill that led to Earth Day. Some people packed up and left on their own accord.
And then all of a sudden we smelled this terrible smell like gasoline, and we went out to the beach, and other campers were telling us that it was an oil spill.
Refugio Beach Park rangers ordered the rest to evacuate, offering refunds and space at Gaviota up the coast. The former mayor of Ojai came to plan his wedding.
And unfortunately, it seems like that kind of fell apart today because we've only been here for about 24 hours. We were planning on spending 3 days here, and now due to this oil spill, they're evacuating us, and looks like our planning is going to be put off till another time.
The evacuation makes room for Clean Seas and Patriot cleanup crews. The Coast Guard is in charge. And I'm back out here, and some volunteers have been down on the beach. This is Natalie Ferris and Mark Collar. She is a student, he is an environmental expert, so to speak. Tell me about these buckets and what you found down there.
There's a large amount of oil. We filled up about 91 buckets. It was just a small volunteer effort, just organized by us. And yeah, 91 of these things, and we didn't make much of a dent, so there's a lot of work.
Mark, you talked to a park ranger just a moment ago. What did he tell you?
Just that there's a lot of stuff going on right now, and very confusing. A lot of people to work with, a lot of agencies that are kind of working together. And I think that we kind of caught them off guard, so don't mean to step on anybody's toes by being out here, but just kind of wanted to come try to do something.
You seemed to be prepared when you went down there. Thank you so much. There were a lot of volunteers out here, but earlier at that press conference, they were telling people interested in volunteering to hold off and go to CaliforniaVolunteer.com to check that out. They also had a phone number that we'll put on our website if you see wildlife to report it. They have a lot of professionals coming in, staying at hotels in Buellton and Santa Barbara that will be out at first light tomorrow looking to do the cleanup, and then maybe there'll be more time for volunteering. Reporting live just off the coast by Refugio, Tracy Lair at the 11 o'clock news.
Thank you, Tracy. And we do have more reaction to the spill. Owen Bailey, executive director of the Environmental Defense Center, says, quote, unfortunately, with accidents and oil development, it is not a question of if, but of when. But to see this level of oil spill into such a sensitive and treasured environment is devastating to watch, end quote.
Scientists are already evaluating the environmental damage caused by spills like this one. Reporter Kelsey Gerkins talked with a scientist tonight who studies oil spills.
This evening, I spoke with a professor here at Cal State University Channel Islands who specializes in environmental resource management. He tells me because of the oil spill in 1969 in Santa Barbara, this oil spill will be well documented.
We've actually been very proactive here in California and the West Coast and actually set up a whole network of monitoring things up and down the California coast, focused primarily on the rocky intertidal. And every quarter, scientists go out and check and see what critters are on that rock or on those rocks.
Sean Anderson says the monitoring system was put in place in California following the devastating oil spill along Santa Barbara's coastline in 1969. He says the monitoring system will help scientists determine how much damage this oil spill really created.
If we had not had this group of data that we have monitoring these systems, we'd be much harder pressed to say what was going on.
Professor Anderson says it will be months before we know the true impact this oil spill had on our environment. Reporting in Camarillo, Kelsey Gerkins.
And we have more details tonight from the Department of Fish and Wildlife about the spill's effect on animals.
Our offshore personnel and the Clean Seas response vessels did not come across any affected wildlife during their operations late this afternoon into early evening.
However, this news hog photo seems to show a seabird covered in oil. If you come across any wildlife affected by the spill, you're told not to pick it up. Instead, call the number on your screen. It's the Oiled Wildlife Care Network at 877-823-6926. Once again, the number is 877-823-6926. The number will also be on our website at KEYT.com.
And of course, the weather will affect just how far this oil spill travels and also the full impact. Chief Meteorologist Alan Rose is in our First Alert Weather Center with more details on that. Alan.
Hi, Paul. That's right. Tides, currents, winds, all a matter when we're talking about what could be the impacts with this oil spill. And what we're looking at here is the next high tide time for this area of the Southern California coastline, the southern Santa Barbara County coastline. And we can see it's tonight in just a few minutes, 11:19. And as we reach the high tide, it's going to allow for that oil and that grime, of course, to go back farther on shore than what we saw earlier today, likely affecting more real estate, so sort of bad before it gets better. Then we see a low tide tomorrow morning, 6:25 a.m. That should allow for the things to sort of flow back out to sea, and then we see that ebb again as the high tide returns tomorrow afternoon, 1:02. Another one tomorrow night just before midnight. In terms of winds, we've seen some gusty winds coming out of the west and northwest through the entrance into the Santa Barbara Channel. Gust over the open waters around 25 knots, but subsiding late tonight. Wind waves 1 to 2 feet out of the west, swell in the open ocean 2 to 3 feet. And we saw with some of that video earlier today, the waves not much of a concern out there right now. So that's one thing working in our favor. Tomorrow's wind forecast, pretty quiet through the morning hours, but picking up in the channel throughout the afternoon hours. And back on land, we've noticed tonight that we are seeing some of those sundowner winds. The good news, according to our latest observations, mostly west of the oil spill area out towards the Gaviota Tunnel, but still some spillover winds could come in the form of maybe 15 to 25 miles an hour. So we'll certainly keep a close eye on this. We'll also have your full forecast coming up a little bit later on in our newscast. Back to you.
Thank you, Alan. And now the company that owns the pipeline is based in Houston, Texas. Plains All-American Pipeline does have an official on site at Refugio tonight.
Plains deeply regrets this release has occurred and is making every effort to limit its environmental impact. Our focus remains on ensuring the safety of all involved.
And here is some information we discovered about Plains All-American Pipeline. The company was also responsible for a 19,000-gallon spill in Atwater Village near Los Angeles. That's what you're looking at right there. Now, that spill happened on May 15, 2014, almost a year ago to the day. Oil shot 40 feet into the air and caused quite a mess. Now, we've also learned Plains All-American had 10 crude oil spills in 4 Midwest states. More than 273,000 gallons of oil spilled in those cases. The company settled with the EPA and the Justice Department back in 2010 by agreeing to pay more than $3 million in penalties. Plains All-American also agreed to spend $41 million to upgrade its aging pipelines. And we will continue to keep tabs on this and bring you the latest as it breaks.
Our live coverage continues tomorrow morning starting at 5 on KCOY 12 Central Coast News and News Channel 3. We'll have more live updates as the morning progresses. And of course, complete coverage anytime on our websites, kcoy.com and keyt.com.